Hello, everybody. Hello, listeners. Welcome back to another episode of the Wrangle podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about all sorts of cool topics, and today we're joined by myself, and we're also joined by.
Hi, I'm Kai. We're also being joined by Isabel, Luca, and Gabby. If you want to make noises and indicate who you are, then go for it, but you don't have to if you don't want to. I'm sure we'll recognise it as we go on.
I'm the only other guy. That's how to identify me by voice.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. What pronouns do you use, Luca? I think I'm familiar with everyone else's.
Pronouns like Mr.
How
Luca.
should we? Okay.
While you're at it, call me Lord.
Lord. Oh, that's such a good answer to that question. Okay, well, I'm gonna call you Lord from now on.
Master Luca.
Very nice. Okay. Right. So, hang on, let me just have a little drink of my glass. Right, so, the most popular topic by vote was the one about vegan and vegetarian stuff, which is a bit of a juicy debate because I just listened to a podcast about vegan stuff. So I'd probably say for this debate, I mean, it's completely up to you, of course. What I'm going to do as far as talking about it, I'm probably going to avoid saying what diet I have, just because some people might get spooked about it. If we're debating it, you can say what you know if you want to. I'm just probably not going to. But okay, I'm going to ask you a question that you can discuss. Right. So, on the Instagram polls, which I gave the results to, I asked everyone on the Instagram thing, should we show in the curriculum the kids the meat process, like what goes on from the very start of it to the very end of it? And that was 9 yeses and 1 no's. And I can't remember who said the no, but I wouldn't ask of it anyway. And the consensus was that we should show them, clearly, but then there was a bit more ambiguity as to how much we show them and how we show them. So, what are people's thoughts on that? As far as how much we should show them at what point?
Well, surely truth is best at its fullest. You know, in the police system, in the fire department, every system of the world, we should show the people what is truly going on behind these doors. Otherwise, bad things will happen. When people go in and document prisons, for example, they can show horrifying things that go on within those prisons to try and stop that from happening in the future and from happening to other people. So that's my opinion. I think that everything should really be shown. And if the practices are claimed to be ethical and all these, used with all these different words, you should be able to back that up by proving it. It should be the slaughterhouse workers releasing videos, not activists that have to, sneak in and trespass.
Yeah, I completely agree with what you're saying as well, because I think it's important for people to know what's going on, because lots of people will just blindly do things without realizing what is going on. And I think it's good just for people to sort of form an understanding of what is going on.
Yeah, I do agree with what you're saying, and I think an interesting thing that's a bit more debatable is that if we know, well, some of us know certain amounts about what actually goes on, and people don't care about it. But then I feel like a lot of the people who don't care, they only don't care because their opinion about it isn't a full one that's based on the true situation. So it's not really an opinion, or a not really full one, which is why you obviously inform them. I don't know how much of a debate it is about how early you show people and how early you show people what. I mean, it's you have to show them at some point. I think we're in agreement, but the actual full brutality thing, I don't know what kind of age people would think that would be a good idea to show people, because then do you just describe it at an early age and then slowly work up as it goes more graphic? Do you think?
I don't know. I think, well, from a young age, kids understand that when they eat meat, it's like, okay, this was a living animal and now it's not. I think kids understand that from an early age, but what they don't understand is the actual graphical implications of what goes on, and like
Yeah.
how are animals killed and how are they put on the plate. So I think kids know that that they die to be on the food on the plate, but I don't know. I mean, I remember in secondary
I already
school.
know what you're going to say about.
Yes, there's this vegan activist called Earthling, and our secondary school actually got him to do a talk in our assembly at school, and we were about 15, 16 years old at that time, and they showed really graphic stuff. And to be honest, I don't think the teachers actually knew what he was going to do. And I don't think the teachers were expecting him to show such graphic stuff to 15, 16-year-olds. And everybody was kind of walking out of that assembly kind of shocked and, kind of, worried about it. But it definitely had an impact. But I think maybe, I don't know. I think it was good overall, but I think it wasn't effective in stopping people from eating meat, because I'm gonna say straight up, the meat industry is fucked and they have really bad practices, and they're so abusive to animals, and also eating meat is very bad for the environment as well. But I am gonna admit right now that I do eat meat. I'm an omnivore, and I think that's just because of my habits. But at the same time, I'm aware of what goes on in the meat industry, and I try and eat meat as less as I can. So I think probably 15 to 16, maybe 17. Yeah, probably 15, 16. Or it's probably a good good age to show the graphical stuff. But I think the kids should have an awareness of all ages of what goes on, and the fact that this was a living thing and now it isn't. That kind of thing.
Yeah. I remember as well. I don't remember very much of the talk, but I remember the way that he phrased showing of what actually goes on. He was saying it in he wasn't going to show actual death. I think the closest to death that he got was showing baby male chicks on the conveyor belt in an egg farm, and then what they went into, but he didn't actually show them. So I guess that's a more gradual process of showing what actually goes on. But I felt that was pretty upsetting anyway. Would you say as a general rule that because I mean some people will see that and think that it's fine anyway, which is up to them, regardless of environment and stuff, just purely ethics. Do you think as a society that in order to eat meat, you should at least know what's happening, and in order to eat meat you'd have to do that, and then form your opinion? We don't as in to get rid of ignorance, so as in just you're eating meat because you genuinely believe that that's fine, rather than you eat meat because you haven't really figured out what's actually going on, kind of thing.
Can I hop on here?
Yeah, sure.
I was gonna say about this question of, do you think you should know and have a formulated opinion before you make a decision? I'll throw a little curveball. If you think about it this way, you could teach people about the racism and the structural inequality within, let's say, the clothing industry in Bangladesh, right? It's clear that the poverty line is crazy, and that so many people are being exploited for third world countries to have all these products for cheap, for monetary gain from big corporations. We could teach this to people and say, look, if you pay these companies, you are inevitably part of the oppression that goes towards these people. That's how it works. So you're funding it.
Yeah.
Because you vote with your dollar or pound. And then they say, well, actually, I don't care about Bangladesh children. I personally don't care about them whatsoever, so they can die. Personally, I think they should die. Do you think it's okay to let them have this opinion just because it's their opinion, or do you think that as a third world country, we should make a few guidelines and make a few decisions of what is right and is wrong? Because as I hope we all agree here that exploiting children in Bangladesh is wrong and it shouldn't happen. Although many of us, and I bet I do too, without my knowledge, pay into these industries. And, we should try and minimize it to the maximum possible. But it's government that should also be, enforcing laws on this, don't you think?
Yeah,
Interesting.
I mean, I think I agree with what you're saying completely. That the same with clothing as well. In all these industries that have unethical practices, people need to know about what's going on, and they should be like, we shouldn't support these unethical practices. I mean, with meat, for example, instead of buying factory farm food, you could just buy maybe free range food or free range beef or whatever, as like kind of a sort of halfway house between veganism and eating meat and supporting the terrible industry that will it's bad for animals. And the same with clothing, buy locally sourced clothing or clothing that's ethically sourced with fair trade. So I think our governments, governments with which have first world countries where there's high consumer spending, they should pass laws that are like, hey, we're going to call out what's wrong here, and child exploitation and animal abuse is wrong, and we are going to pass laws saying that you just can't do that. And I think that's something that the government, I guess, yeah.
Do you think that the clothing example could be applied to the meat industry, so that you could say, all right, in a first world country like ours, where there is no evidence that we need bacon to survive on a healthy diet and whatnot, we should exploit these animals and treat them the way they are? Because at the end of the day, whether it's free range or organic, all of these words are, what was free range 10 years ago is very different to what is free range now. The label is so easy to obtain now. You could let out chickens, I believe it's 2 weeks a year, leave them outside, put them back in factory houses, and label it as free range, because you pass the criteria. And that's what these industries do. They try exploit ticking boxes. Obviously, exploitation isn't at the forefront of let's set up a chicken farm. How can we exploit animals the most? It just naturally happens within this kind of frame set of these animals are our product, really. This is what we're selling. And wherever you go in the meat industry, organic or free range, they'll end up in the same slaughterhouse. So at the end of the day, the slaughter methods are identical in organic, free range, or in factory farmed houses. If you go to the gas chambers in Manchester, and I don't know if many of you know this, as in you have heard Earthling Ed, and he's an amazing speaker. A third of the pigs in the UK are getting gassed with carbon dioxide. And the truth is, not many people know about that. Whether they say, oh, I know that bacon, the bacon died for me. Not the bacon, the pig died for my bacon. But I could throw an opinion that it shouldn't be allowed, like exploitation, whether you know it's happening or not. From the oppressor's view, exploitation should be viewed from the from the victim's point of view. So if let's talk about Black Lives Matter in America. We shouldn't be talking about, oh, do the police officers know they're oppressing the black people, or do they not know? We should be talking, are they being oppressed or not? Because at the end of the day, we shouldn't be saying, oh, I didn't know I shot him, or oh yeah, I shot him intentionally. That's not what we should be focusing on. We should be focusing on why he got shot and the fact that we need to stop that in the future.
Yeah.
Really interesting. I agree with what you're saying, and I think my example of free range beef is probably a bad example looking back at it now, because to to be honest, like I guess I've kind of fallen for the lies that the meat industry portrays, and it's like, oh, the happy cows will go into the fields and they're all jumping about, blah blah blah. But actually, they're not, as you said. Free range only counts as chickens being outside for 2 weeks, and then put them back in houses. So I didn't know that, and it just kind of shows the issues. Like I'll admit, although I know that there's some very fucked up things going on in the meat industry, I don't know everything, and I've just learned something new, and now that's kind of changed my whole outlook. And I'm going to admit here that, hey, I didn't know this. So I think governments should, massively, crack down on the meat industry and just be like, hey, treat your animals fairly. There's.
I mean, I guess like I think this is really interesting because like as far as not as far as like actively not informing people about what actually goes on, it's not that you're just not doing anything, because by not doing anything you're letting the narratives of happy chickens being free range, being happy and stuff, you're letting that go on, and it's kind of spreading misinformation as opposed to spreading like what the actual truth is. And I guess the interesting thing is that like with Black Lives Matter, they say things about like the consensus about like opinions and Black Lives Matter is that it's not an opinion to be racist, obviously, and it should be the consensus that racism is not okay, and that's no one's opinion, that's just what the consensus is. And I guess with this kind of thing, it's that kind of issue in that a lot of people see it as not an opinion, but then a lot of people obviously don't. And I wonder if just the actual realisation of what actually goes on would make that not an opinion. Or if it doesn't, what should we do where there are things that people see as not being opinions and just morally wrong, but then other people don't? I don't know, because like people wouldn't vote to ban meat, even though a lot of people think that it's not even debatable whether you should ban meat or not. I wonder what you should do about that.
What do you think?
I really don't know. I guess you're more likely to convince people if, as in like more likely to convince a lot of people about it not being just an opinion, it being morally wrong, if people know the truth. That's definitely what has to happen. But then, in order for that to happen, that almost requires that a lot of people are pushing for that and see it as not an opinion. So I mean, at the moment it seems like it's only going to happen gradually and passively as like activists are doing it, like Earthling Ed, doing almost the government's job, and then eventually you'll get to a stage where that is what the government does when enough people think of it's okay. But then I don't know if that's a good way of doing democracy and stuff.
I like personally I don't know if it's like great to like teach it like show the actual videos and the violence in schools or whatever. Like I think it's important to educate, but I think it needs to come across in a different way. If we choose instead to like say it with words and obviously more compassion, because people that are eating meat, like whether or not they know that they're eating dead animal, like the way that they're gonna stop is not by you just telling them like, no, this is wrong, you're doing something wrong, you're like, because that's just attacking someone. I think that showing those videos can also at such a young age be like scary, but also like the fact that 15, 16 we are like able to think, and by just talking, like just showing like the reasons and listing the reasons to why it's morally wrong, but also there are so many other factors to why we shouldn't be consuming meat and like animal products. So yeah, I've actually forgotten what I was going on about, but like but yeah, I think that there are so many factors that we can teach about, and yes, I think Ed's such a great speaker, and I am kind of surprised that he just went all like those videos at your school, like because his way with words is so great. So yeah, I think that really, like, if you just teach somebody words and like all the, because I think what many people think is all vegan food just disgusting, and etc. But like actually it can be tasty, and like it's really the fact that there are like actual, for example, cheese is like actually quite addictive, because it's like the concentration of milk protein. So it actually has like some kind of morphine thing, so it makes you want to,
Casein.
yeah, that's it.
Ooh.
And it makes you want to continue taking it because it's like relaxing, and obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that obviously there are many things that make you want to continue eating meat and animal products, but like instead of thinking of what you're taking out of your diet, like think of all the things that you'll be introducing to your diet by like removing those things. You could be introducing different foods like different grains and things. So I think it's a discussion that a lot of people think, like a lot of people just think, no, vegan food will be disgusting, it's just salad or whatever, but like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, because as well as, removing meat from your diet and animal products is basically what veganism is. At the same time, you don't really have to remove meat from your diet, because you have things like, meat substitutes, like, corned beef, or, the Impossible Burger, which is
Yeah.
actually really nice. And, it's pretty cool, because, there's, especially now, soon in the future, we might be able to reproduce meat by basically taking the stem cell of a cow or of a pig and be able to just grow bacon and just grow steak. And that would be completely ethical, because you're not killing the animal that the stem cell is from. And at the same time, you can produce steak by just growing it. So in the future, you could, if you still want to cling on to having meat, you can even now, and not support the meat industry by having meat substitutes like, corn, and also in the future have lab-grown meat.
Yeah.
So the killing of animals will become totally unnecessary in the future.
I think another thing about it, as far as like actually trying to convince people, I think there are tons of ways of going about convincing people, and I think a lot of them aren't good. Because I think the end goal, obviously, is to stop people eating meat. But there are tons of ways about doing that. I think the best way to like actually ensure that people aren't eating meat is to get them in a situation where it's like, because there's a spectrum of caring about animals. You can like really not care about animals at all, and you can love animals so much that you wouldn't even think about eating meat. And for some people, it's going to be like, I tell people that I really like animals and I'm against animal cruelty, but then you don't care about them enough to like not eat a burger or something when you're with your friends. And I guess the goal is to have it so that you're like, you care about them so much that you wouldn't even think about it. It's not even like, oh, I really love a meat thing, oh, I guess I shouldn't. That's not like what the goal is. It shouldn't even be like a thing that you think about. But I think getting to that point is extremely difficult. I don't know what the best way of doing that is.
Can I mention something? I might take a step back to what Izzy said a while back. I remember Izzy said, I'm going to play devil's advocate, if that's the right way of saying it. Yeah. Well, you said not to show the footage to kids, because it's very graphic, and I quite agree. It is really graphic footage, and it's quite hard to swallow for... That's quite interesting choice of words. For a lot of people. And you're right, it really does. It can scar kids, and it can really, as they say, put you off your meat. But if we were again to move this back to Black Lives Matter, should we say that, let's not show footage of George Floyd being killed to people because it might upset them? Should we be
That's
looking at
very
it
true.
from the person who's being upset, or should we be looking at it from the victim's perspective? On an
That's very
ethical
interesting.
on an ethical view, I think we should be looking at it from the victim's perspective. Do you know what I mean? So we should be looking at it from what we have to do. This is why some vegan activists can be so annoying and so straightforward, and they can be so angry, because they can build a connection with these animals and see, God, these are innocent animals and they are literally crying for help in their last seconds of life. And all they can think of doing is screaming at people saying, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this.
Yeah.
But then going back to your point and agreeing with Izzy, showing people this footage can, although it would be technically ethical, as we've just established, to show it because we're viewing it from the victim's perspective, it can put them off of the idea of veganism, because some people are really close-minded and really, stubborn, which then leads to the opposite. And people will go, God, I hate vegans. They just try to put me off my steak earlier. I'm going to have 2 now, It can do quite... This movement can sometimes do quite the opposite, which is why James Wilkes, a big guy I really like, he said vegans are the worst thing for veganism. Because we can be so annoying and pushy towards people that we really separate we push people to the other side of the fence.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I have experience of that, but
Most people
I
do.
was sitting at the table, and there was one of my friends who was vegan, and I was eating some food. It was a ham sandwich, and then he just looked at me in disgust, and and I was like, dude, what's wrong? And then he was like, it's meat. And then I was like, wait, I'm hungry, I'm eating my lunch. And at the time I was like, that's all I wanted to do. But at the same time, it's like, you gotta tread carefully, but at the same time I realized that, yeah, the meat industry is fucked, and it needs sorting out, basically. You need to kind of like...
So are we in a consensus that the meat industry is fucked? All of us?
I think we are, yes. I think so.
I think we are. What were you going to say, Gabby? Or Izzy? I don't know
Just going back to... it's Gabby. Just going back to when you said about, from the victim's perspective, showing, for example, people the footage of George Floyd or stuff in the meat industry. You have to be careful not to fearmonger, though. Because, yes, it can be good to show the truth, but sort of fear-mongering people into following along with your activism isn't exactly ethical either. People should want to join in your activism because they want to and they feel passionate about it, not because they are pressured into it through feelings of guilt and fear.
I quite agree. People, guilt and all these different feelings can be really detrimental and change people's lives as a whole.
Especially to children as well, because they are easily impressionable.
Absolutely. And I might just play devil's avocado.
Devil's avocado.
The vegan talk's getting to me. Devil's advocate, again with that, and say, well, again, from the victim's perspective, should we be worrying about upsetting a few people? Or should we be worrying
It's
about...
more than just upsetting people is what I mean, is like fear-mongering is more than that, and it's a way to control them into following with your narrative. Making people upset and feel the fear to form into passion to join your activism is very different to just straight up fear-mongering, making people feel like they have to join your activism, otherwise they are in the morally wrong side. That's what I mean, is that we should be careful.
That's an interesting point. I never really thought about it as fear-mongering. Do you think that happens in, in the activism world?
I do see it quite a bit of it. Sometimes when I've heard people talking about, for example, with Black Lives Matter and talking about children joining protests, or didn't like Nickelodeon for some reason play, for example, 8 minutes of footage of someone breathing. It's like you can mention to children about, for example, racism, but not in that sort of way. I think this conversation should be more like, listen, child, just something like, sometimes there are some people that will treat other people differently because of their skin tone, and just something as simple as that, rather than going into in-depth about, for example, the history, or making them feel scared, or that they're a target. Like, that isn't a way that they should grow up or see the world.
I personally don't agree, especially if it's like, for example, a white Caucasian child, because like just like saying that's just how the world is isn't really helpful, especially as children. They're so influenced by everything that's going around them, and like by their parents, and by so I can't really agree on that, because like I think that like especially as children we need to understand that we need, especially for example as a white person, we need to be the ones who are like trying to like voice minorities.
I'm not saying that we should tell them that that is just how the world is and that they should accept it. I'm simply saying for a young child, you should just say, hey, sometimes there are people out there who will treat other people differently due to their skin color, and let them go on with their life. And then as they grow older and they can understand more nuanced topics, that's when they can learn more about it. I'm simply talking about more of a younger child and how they should start becoming aware of the world.
I guess I think all of this is really, really interesting. I guess because when you talk about this issue with Black Lives Matter and stuff, I think it's quite clear. So like a while back with like when I think it was like when people were doing black squares and stuff, people were saying like I'm just really upset about how like I've seen how racist I've been in the past and stuff, and I just need to take some time away from stuff and think things through, and I won't necessarily like post anything on my social media about it and things. But then some arguments against that is that like obviously black people can't do that because their skin colour dictates that they're going to have to experience racism. But also when it's that kind of relationship, it's that like it's no longer enough to just do nothing and like be upset and take your time, because at that point with the Black Lives Matter stuff it becomes almost racist to do nothing, as in like if you like participate in a system where racism is a thing, it's kind of participating in systemic racism, which is arguably racist. And I wonder if the difference between how we see that and how we see the veganism thing is because we see Black Lives Matter as not being an opinion, it's like a moral thing that's clear cut, which is a good thing. I think we all should feel that. But I still feel like a lot of people don't think that veganism is a moral thing rather than an opinion.
So with racism, it's definitely...
Just to clarify, all I mean is just be careful not to fearmonger, and people should be part of your activism because they want to be, not because they're pressured into it. And children are very impressionable and shouldn't grow up in fear of the world. It's just my main point.
Yeah.
I was gonna say it's interesting that you mentioned it. Is racism? I'd say, hopefully, it is a black and white topic. Okay, that's really weird phrasing.
Wow.
Not gonna lie.
Nice.
Not gonna lie. Like there's definitely a right. There's definitely a right and a wrong in that. Obviously, racism is wrong, and we should all know that, and we should teach that within our school. And how there's so much gray area with veganism. Some people I know will say, I don't care, I'd eat a dog, I'd eat my second child if it was, I really don't care.
They need to go to prison if they think that.
Exactly. And there's some people that say, I only eat, not gluten-free, free range. And there's some people that say, I eat nothing. It's such a gray area. And I think that will change over time. As it did with racism. A long time ago, it was a gray area.
Yeah.
And... it has changed, and I'm thinking perhaps that will happen with veganism in the future.
Yeah, excuse me.
And with fear-mongering children, I quite agree. It's bad to do that, but at the same time, when I was little, I was a white kid in Bucharest, Romania, where there's quite a lot of racism towards the Roma gypsy community, and it's really intense stuff. And I was never taught about it, and all I heard is people say they'd use phrasing like, don't be a gypsy, as instead of saying don't be an asshole.
Yeah.
And then you associate the word asshole with gypsy, and you're like, asshole's gypsy. And as a kid, you really grow up with that. And not until if someone was, with like someone said, "Oh, don't be a gypsy," and he just went up to him and he said, "You say that again, I'm going to smack the shit out of you," right? And I was like, "Oh, what's up with this guy?" And then he said, "You are literally making the association that gypsies are assholes and whatever other words you are saying." And the kid was like, "Oh," and he was terrified by this guy. I'm not going to lie, he was like, "I never thought about it that way." And ever since, I've never, because I used to say that kind of stuff, I never knew it was wrong. I never made the correlation. In the same way that perhaps I, as a kid, I never made the correlation that, of course I knew that, calling someone, "Oh, you're a gypsy," isn't very nice. Just how I thought I knew that eating meat, it comes from an animal, right? Perhaps we never made the correlation of that, what that truly means, and what goes through saying those things or doing those things in terms of eating it, you know?
I mean, I think there must be education, on racism in schools, and it must not just be like, hey, some people will judge people based off their skin. It must be like, racism is a terrible thing in society, and we mustn't be racist, and we must value each other for who each other is, on the fact that we're all human beings, or we're all our own individual people, and that is who we judge each other off, not based off of things that we can't control, like the color of our skin. And I wish, in my primary school, we really weren't taught anything about racism at all. We were taught about vaguely some stuff, but it wasn't much, not much was taught about it at all. And also growing up in like a white area where pretty much all of the kids are white, you think that, hey, black people are these strange people that you've never met because you live in a predominantly white area, and then you start prejudging people, and then that's how racism starts. And it's like, I really wish that we were actually taught about it in primary school. I mean, obviously now I am of the view that we're all human beings, that we're all equal, regardless of skin, and everybody should be treated equally. But I think it's important that people are taught about this in schools.
Yeah, of course, I did also mean to imply that obviously children should be taught to respect other people and respect differences and be open-minded, etc., etc. I think children generally, naturally at first, don't really, I don't want to say don't see color, but as in they don't really care in a way until it is taught, or that sort of thing. I just meant in terms of to a very young child who doesn't really know anything, a first simple sort of explanation would be of what a racist is that there are some people out there who will judge people based on their skin color, and that's sort of a first way into, not going into too much of a heavy subject, just a way to let them know that this happens, not in a way that says, "Oh yeah, just that's okay, that's just a normal thing in the world," but just explaining. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
I get what you mean. Yeah,
I guess unless anyone has anything to say, I was just thinking about what all of you were saying, and I think I think there's only a grey area with veganism and stuff because people are so uninformed, as in like people think that free range is like fine and stuff, and I guess the only way to combat that is to properly inform people, because like with Black Lives Matter, people used to think that just like if you walked across the street because you saw a black person, you were a bit spooked by them, they thought that was okay, but now it's clear that it's not okay. And the only reason that a large group of society has formed that opinion is because we've been more informed about it and why we do that. And I guess that applies to because a lot of vegans will see it as going vegetarian isn't enough, and because they're informed to a certain level that they've concluded that even milk industry isn't okay in their eyes. So and it continues with just eating meat once a week. For them, that's in the grey area, but it's still not okay. So I guess we just need to inform people, but I don't know. I think maybe the only way to do that on a mass scale is just to wait for all the activists to keep pushing it, and then eventually it will become more of a thing like it sort of has with Black Lives Matter. But then I guess it's the thing that if we clearly and strongly agree that it's immoral, why should we have to wait so long to convince people? I don't know. it's a bit of a it's extremely tricky to convince a lot of people something completely different.
That's really true. It is very tricky. Have you heard about the recent case with the activist getting footage about a guy? I believe he was beating up his was it cows for cow milk or goats
I
for
think
goat
it
milk?
was
I
a
wasn't
cow.
quite sure. But he was abusing a cow, and they caught it on footage. And because that was against the guidelines, because the UK does have guidelines on animal welfare, the thing is they're not really being respected. And even if they were being respected, you know, we could still argue that it doesn't say in the guideline you're not allowed to kill them, you know, which we could argue that is wrong. The activist got footage from this guy abusing cows and took him to court and lost the court case because the footage was filmed illegally, and that's why they lost the court case. So keep that in mind for future activists, because you film something illegally. Imagine if we again turned it to Black Lives Matter. It's a really good comparison, considering Black Lives Matter, you know, it's going quite well and it's got a lot of backing. If we illegally got some footage, maybe filmed in a prison or something like that, of you know, a minority being oppressed, they couldn't say in court, no, we're not allowed to use that. We're going to discredit the footage because it's filmed illegally. So therefore, these guys didn't do anything wrong. Yeah. Be free.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Hello, Oscar, by the way. I guess a similar a comparison to make as far as like illegal and stuff. I guess I don't know what people think about this, because I've thought about this a lot and I don't know what I think about it. So, for example, if every Tuesday every school in the United Kingdom had an assembly at 9 p.m, and then there was this one vegan hacker who, I don't know, but just, oh yeah, late night school sesh. Maybe it's a boarding school that I'm talking about. But just say that there was like an assembly at a certain time, and then there's this vegan hacker who like puts videos of cows being slaughtered on the assembly. That's probably illegal in some way, but then if it like convinces people that that their opinion was not informed and that they changed their mind, I wonder if people would actually be angry about it. I mean, a lot of people would. I imagine a lot of parents would, but the actual people who had watched it, I wonder if like you'd feel like, oh, this is what the situation is now, and I was wrong, and my opinion was misinformed before. And I guess the question that I'm wondering is that, like, should we just show everyone it, and then if everyone knows what's going on, then they won't, because like a lot of the reason that people don't a lot of the reason why the government hasn't made like stricter free range laws and stuff is that because people still think that free range is okay, and if people know that it really isn't, then by, for example, forcing them to see it, then I feel like a lot more people would have an informed opinion and then would be more likely to agree. So I wonder if that's the kind of thing that needs to happen in order to like speed up the process, just doing like some sort of like bad thing, but it's kind of like the end justifies the means. I wonder what people think about that.
I mean, I kind of think that showing like that, like those kind of videos isn't fully effective. Like, I don't know, I guess also like for your school, I don't think like I'd probably most people didn't walk away from that like vegetarian or vegan. I personally think that like, again, talking about it and like allowing people to ask questions and like not making them feel like attacked or anything, but genuinely just like making them understand and like being compassionate. Yeah, I think that's a better way to handle it. So instead, if like someone, instead of like having hacked the assembly, had just asked the school or whatever to like just come and talk, because I'm sure most schools would allow that. Like, and allow the students to ask questions and things. I think that would be a better approach.
It's very
Yeah.
interesting. I agree. I think talking is usually the best method of this, you know. And Kai and Oscar, were you two both? Did you both have the assembly from Earthling Ed?
Yeah, and also Gabby did as well. She's from
All
there.
right. Thing is, I feel like you guys. Obviously, I don't know the rest of your school and who else was there. I feel like you guys are much more open to the idea of veganism. Now, I'm wondering, is that perhaps because of Earthling Ed, and he did what they call in the activism world, planting a seed in your head, you know, letting you kind of just letting that thought mingle at the back of your brain for years, and then maybe at one point some dude or you see a girl you like and she's like, oh, I'm vegan, and that instantly hits you like, I'm gonna go vegan right now. And it's not just because of that girl or this other dude that you met. It's because you've had the idea in your head for a long time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I would agree with what you're saying, definitely, actually. I mean, I guess back 15-year-old me was back then was like very close-minded to the idea of being vegan, but now I think, seeing those images and hearing his words and hearing, what he was saying, I think it has planted a seed in me, and it has made me, reassess. And I think I do try and actively eat less meat, and I do try and like have corn meats instead of like real meats, and try and eat less. So I guess, yeah, I guess he did plant a seed in my head, and I'm now a lot more open to it.
So with that kind of thought, we could say that any sort of activism is good activism. Don't you think?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah, definitely.
By the way, who is this guy? I don't think I saw that talk.
No.
Oh, also for other people listening to the podcast, it's Earthling Ed. He's like the Jesus of the vegan community, really.
He also looks like Jesus as well.
He looks a lot like Jesus, not gonna lie. He in comparison with other vegan activists like Joey Carbstrong and all these other people, he is way, Joey is really aggressive, and he's the classic typical vegan that you'd imagine, shouting at people, there's a pig died for that, for everything you eat, and constantly screaming and shouting, really. But Earthling Ed is way more kind of slow and compassionate with his words, and when he speaks, people just love to listen to him. It's bizarre. He's really a natural speaker, and if you look at one of his speeches, the best speech you will ever hear, good clickbait, that's on YouTube.
Nice.
He is quite possibly what I think vegan activism or activism in general should be about, because when he's explaining something, he explains it in depth, so you can't really argue with it, and he's just so nice. you don't feel inclined to argue just because he's an asshole. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think we've all had that thing where you kind of think they're right, but you're like, God, I hate this person so much, I want to argue with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do.
I think the go on.
You go. Don't
All
worry.
right. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah, I was just gonna say that, like, yeah, I think an important part of activism, or for arguing for a cause, is just discourse, just to be able to talk with people who are opposing you. And it's not just with veganism. It's like, how do you get a bigoted racist to not be racist anymore? It's like, how do you do that? And yes, they are wrong. They are very wrong, and their opinions are really awful. But if you just sit down and you just talk to them, or if they, I don't know, talk to some other people, like if they talk to Muslims or black people that they have prejudices about, and then they'll realize, hey, actually they're normal people like myself, then that is a way of of getting activism to work, and of like, as well as persuading bigots to not be bigots, is just by talking.
Yeah. Another thing is that, so I studied in psychology a thing called categorization, and it's pretty much where you like put yourself in categories, and especially with like this person, like say someone who's really like never gonna become vegan, say they're like even a hunter or something like really extreme, like I think that if they like again discuss, talk, and like make, like for example, come across a vegan and they like get on, and maybe initially they don't even discuss that one's a hunter and one's a vegan, but they just have a good time in general together, and then maybe like sometime they like already then, whether or not they're in the exact, like for example, whether they're in the same category, because they'll find a category in which, like I'm not very like explaining this very well, but they'll find a category in which they're both in, and that's why they're friends. Whether like they're like completely the opposite on vegan and hunter or whatever, but like because they're friends, it could also mean that they therefore will be more open to then listening and to hearing each other's opinions, and yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's really, really true. I was thinking about this because when you talk about like what people were taking away from the Earthling Ed thing, yes, that's him. I'll put that link in the description. There's a link about Jesus Earthling Ed. So like a few people from like, because we left assembly, and a couple of people who were meat eaters were like, because I'm not sure about what I thought about Earthling Ed's assembly overall. I definitely agree with all the stuff that he was putting across. Some people were like, ugh, toxic vegans, this makes me want to be vegan less kind of thing. With the way that I reacted to it, I was like really shocked, and I actually cried in the assembly, but nobody noticed. Like me being upset then wasn't actually what convinced me. It was like just recently, the podcast that I was listening to just before I started this, it was a podcast with Earthling Ed talking to a farmer, and the way that he was talking about it and stuff was so like nice and friendly, and it like actually kind of convinced the farmer to like think again as well. And I think you kind of have to take I definitely agree about like being friends and stuff, and I think it's like the way that like terrorists radicalize people, it's not that it's like, it's sometimes effective if you've already got the views to like watch someone in a big crowd talking to a big crowd and like saying a load of stuff, but then the most effective way is when like someone you know is like already a part of it, and then they talk to you about it and things. And I think that's a very good way of doing it, because I guess like a podcast kind of emulates that way.
I also had seen this, I can't remember what it was. It was like a video, or like I don't know, it was like a story, and it was pretty much this American kid, and he was like really like anti something. Like I'm just gonna say anti like Muslim, because I can't actually remember what it was.
Islamophobic.
Yeah. And he was like he was so Islamophobic that he would go out and protest and like really like try and convince people about his ideas, and in fact he was going to become like the chief of like this whole like area which was Islamophobic, almost like, I don't know, would it be considered cult-like? I don't know. Like a whole like area was like really Islamophobic, and he was going to become like the chief of like the Islamophobes in that area. And then he went to university in a bigger town, and he came across different people, including Muslims. And in fact, he had befriended this Muslim person, and they'd become friends over time. He hadn't mentioned that he was like really against Muslims, and pretty much one day, like, the whole university had come to find out, like, someone had researched his background and published that he was like this or whatever, and he was completely emarginated. Is that a word? Emarginated? Like,
Sounds like a real word.
yeah, I'm just gonna pretend that's a word. Okay.
Okay.
Should be a real word.
Yeah, hopefully. And but this Muslim friend of his had decided that that wasn't really a way that he was going to be taught. Instead, he invited him to these like dinner parties he did with a group of his Muslim friends and other friends from the university. And what had happened is, like, initially nobody really turned up except for him and this Islamophobe and maybe a couple of other people, because nobody really wanted to associate with him. They were like really like, what on earth is this guy, kind of thing. And after a while, like, more people started turning up, and he started talking to some of his Muslim friends and his Muslim friend, and they started opening up to like the idea that it's not bad to be Muslim, and there's really nothing, like, they just opened him up kind of, and now he's actually like a really big protester against Islamophobia and against discrimination in general. So it just goes to show that if, like, you've got the facts down and you show compassion to someone and you just in general talk to them, like, that can change someone's ideas rather than like completely like just pushing them away, because that's just like that's the community he came from in the first place. The ones that were just like that very like what's the word I'm looking for? Very excessive Islamophobes and with such a over the top idea. Yeah, I don't know if I described that well, but yeah, there's this story, and I think it's really interesting, and it can be applied to all kind of discrimination and all kind of things in general, like that you want to open people up. It can be like two completely different people, like completely on the opposite, but if you just like show compassion and talk, then really you can open people's mind up rather than just
the story of
them.
Sorry, the story of Daryl Davis is actually very similar to that. Has anyone heard of him?
I don't know, it might be that person. I just really couldn't remember the story and kind of made the ideas.
This is no. This is someone different. This is a black man who actually became sort of friends with members of the KKK.
Yeah.
Oh.
He even has some of their hoods now. I can send you the TED Talk so that I don't say everything, because it was a similar sentiment to your story. Is that he met with a member of the KKK, and he even attended some of their meetings and everything. And slowly began to change so many of their minds to leave. And it's just a really interesting story.
Yeah.
It's really important in the activist world that, because although you could say that, showing this graphic footage is good, it's ethically right to show graphic footage, it sometimes does the quite opposite that you want to do, and pushes people away. And from actually, I probably should have mentioned this before. I'm vegan, so if anyone wants to say, I've got a bias, I probably do. I've got a vegan bias towards my what I'm saying. I'm just being open to that. But from a vegan's my perspective, when I do an activist, an activist, whatever you call it, event, there's a lot of people that are interested. And if I was to say be really aggressive to them, like some other people around me are, you could push them away. And quite possibly the best person I've ever talked to during my activism was this dude, this black guy came up to me, and he said, "Why are you protesting about animal rights? Why aren't you protesting about black rights?" And he was really upset, and he looked like he was on the verge of crying. He was saying, you know, my brothers and sisters are being mistreated all over the place, around the whole world, and you're here worrying about a chicken's life. And I didn't go and say, fuck you, look at these animals, they need help too, you know? I just said, I genuinely agree with you. And I said, what you're saying is so true, and the oppression that is going on within different ethnicities is very true. And then I said, I support Black Lives Matter, just like I support veganism and many other things. So you know, you don't have to be anti-racist only. You know, you can be part of more movements. You can try help as much as you can. And he said, well, that's true, of course. And then I said, all right, let me give you this as well. If you raise a kid from birth and you tell them that every life is really important in the world, every life, whether they are a black life, a homosexual life, whether they are a pig or a chicken or whatever they are, whatever their beliefs are, whatever they look like, and whatever species they are very important and crucial to the world. Do you think that kid is going to grow up and abuse the black community? And he just stood there in complete shock and thought about it for a few minutes. And he was like, dude, I've never thought about it like that. And then he started talking to me like he was the activist, like he was the vegan activist about it. And he was telling me all this stuff, and he was making all these correlations in his head, which kind of also comes back to the point of sometimes people never really make the correlation of what the food, you know, what it contributes to. And he was like, dude, and then he went into a shop and he brought his kid and his wife over. And he was like, can you say what you said to me, but to my kid and my wife? And I just said it again. And they were so moved by just, you know, a few words, really. And I really wish I took their Instagram or something. But they were like, dude, thank you so much. And they were really happy to hear this. And if you think about it, if I would have been very different with that situation, I could have turned these people against the movement. So whatever movement we're in, Oscar's gone again. So whatever movement you are trying to support, it's so important just to be reasonable. Like this Joey Carbstrong guy I was mentioning earlier. Jesus Christ. He was on Piers Morgan, also not the best, you know, inspiration. He was on one of his shows with a hunter having a debate. And he was so unreasonable. He had a no bullshit approach. That's what he was saying. Anything that the hunter said, he just shut down, didn't let her speak. And although what he was saying technically wasn't wrong, he was, you know, making reference to the industry's suffering. But everyone, pretty much everyone, even me as a vegan, I was like, I think she won the debate. Simply not because of what she said, because she didn't really say anything, but because he didn't let her say anything. And that attitude towards a debate really, you know, discredits you. Do you guys think that, you know, an attitude in a debate sometimes is more important than the actual content?
Yeah, I would agree, definitely. I mean, just completely shutting down the opposition and just saying, no, not going to talk to you. No, I'm right, you're wrong. You know, that's just what children do in the playgrounds.
Yeah.
You know? That's even if you might have all of the facts to back yourself up, if you go into a debate like that, that's just what children do on a playground.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you totally on that. And what you were saying about, you know, your story, I mean, that's really impressive, because like just you know, that just goes to show that, you know, just simple discourse and just talking to people is really amazing. And it, you know, yeah, because like, yeah, at the end of the day, everything matters, and we shouldn't judge anybody based off of anything, you know, basically. Yeah.
I love how this conversation's gone from veganism to Black Lives Matter to KKK. It's been quite wide.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride, wild podcast, whilst also trying to deal with my internet problems. I think. Yeah.
You have something you want to say, Isabel?
I don't know, but on the vegan topic, I was just gonna like add the health and like the environmental aspects as well, along obviously, because we've obviously talked about ethics, which I think are so important, but a lot of people who maybe are closed-minded on the ethics and think that animals aren't as I don't know, important as humans. I think that also discussing like health and environmental factors is really important as well, because they also have animal agriculture and consumption of the products obviously have a big impact on both of those as well.
So what would you say about health, let's say? Could you summarize what you think?
Yeah, okay. So pretty much it's bad. No, I was just gonna say that like there are many like health issues that consuming animal products causes. In fact, and I think like one of the main debates against this is that like vegans have to take supplements. Then again, just want to put out there that the animals are also given supplements, so yeah, you're just consuming them through the animals if you. So that really isn't like the issue. I'd say that there's really loads of proof to show that that it's honestly bad for your health, and like for example, eggs like are one of the main, if not the biggest. I don't have the statistics down, but they're really like a big factor, like a big cause of breast cancer, and obviously meat is also really big factor in cancer as well. These are because they're like saturated fats, and also because they like pretty much speed up the cancer cells in our body. And yeah, I just kind of gave a ground base of what we can discuss. I don't know.
There's so much to mention on the health topic. It's such a, if you look at podcasts that have debated this, like the Joe Rogan podcast, where they invited James Wilkes to debate with what's his name, to debate with Chris Kresser. Chris Kresser tried to discredit the Game Changers, and James Wilkes came around and pretty much, in my opinion, smacked his opinion out of proportion. Yeah. There's just way too much for us as kids to talk about, and generally, as non-experts, we should try let the experts do the talking. And I think we could be as a Greta Thunberg, quite an inspiration to many people. Whether you agree with her or not, you can understand that young people, even though they're not the makers of science, they can definitely be the deliverers of it, and we could help voice it out to other people.
Ultimately, we are the future. Young people are the future, and we want a good world to grow up in and to live in. So yeah, we are the driving force, I guess.
Yeah, and personally, what made me go vegan is the fact that I was obese, and I've tried all these different diets. It didn't work, and the vegan diet helped me lose weight. I never, even whilst vegan, I never made the correlation of what my ethics are doing. Helping. You know what I mean about ethics, and it's quite interesting because even while I was vegan, I didn't know what the hell what I was helping the industries with. As in, that's kind of why I'm still vegan now. But when I went vegan, the guy that inspired me to do so, I think he had a good look at me. He was like, all right, this kid's fat. One. Two, because I was really fat. Two, he had a little chat with me, and I didn't really show that much interest in animal welfare, right? So he said, I'm going to talk to him about health. And he talked to me about health a bit, and I was like, well, I want to lose weight. I want to feel better. Okay. And that inspired me to go vegan. And looking at health now, Jesus Christ, the things that we put into our body. I mean, the fact that kids can go up to McDonald's and get a double bacon cheeseburger should be illegal, in my opinion, because putting type 1A carcinogens into kids, classed as carcinogenic as cigarettes, kids can't have cigarettes. For what purpose? Well, because it's unhealthy for them. Using the signs that we have in front of us, if a piece of bacon or a piece of ham or a hot dog, which is processed meat, aka type 1A carcinogen, how come the governments are feeding this to kids? I mean, it's a bit ludicrous if you think about it. And not only is it harming the NHS and taxpayers' money, it's killing people. As in, out of us, if I'm not wrong, 3 out of us 5 should die from atherosclerosis related incidents such as heart attack, stroke, which just isn't right when the majority of those cases can be prevented with diet. Another reason why we should educate people and kids, especially in school. Do you guys think that educating people on the truth about nutrition is necessary, or should people just discover it themselves?
I think definitely you should educate people about health as well, because you want a healthy population, and you want people to live longer. So yeah,
I definitely agree with basically everything you said, Luca. To be fair, I think there's so much to talk about. I think I don't know if you agree. There's probably 3 main things. There's the health aspects of being vegan, environment, and also ethics. And I guess we need to give everyone information on all of them. And like you said, Luca, at the time, it was more the health aspects of it that convinced you. But then for some other people, it might be ethics or environment. And because we talked about a lot about ethics, and there's a lot of it's a bit of a tricky one to explain to people because it's not just facts like it is with the environment. So I think a different approach needs to be done for ethics, which we might talk about later because I thought of a cool thing. But we'll go into health for now. There was a thing that because on often when you talk about, I guess it's also in economy as well. The thing that's against veganism is that it puts farmers out of jobs that they're not meat farms out of jobs, but also people say vegan food is expensive. A counter to that, I don't want to say counter because that's too argumentative, but the response to that from activists is that the government should subsidize healthy and also vegetarian food to make it cheaper, and also subsidize farmers to look after give them more money if they look after the farm more and be vegetarian. So do you think that's actually plausible as a solution?
Where there's a will, there's a way. Humans are quite possibly the most amazing, if you look at just a completely random example, when the Brits were bombing Germany, bombing the bridges, the Germans
not what I thought you were going to say.
Definitely not. The Germans literally didn't obey the laws of what you can do and what you can't. They said, we're going to build that bridge back today. And they built it, and they built it every single day. They just rebuild bridges that we destroyed. And if humans can do that, surely we could change the food system, We can adjust it ethically. We can adjust it so much, and we can do so much good stuff with it. I mean, think about, the, what was it? Was it the Oxford University released a study saying that 75% of all farmland in the world could be reduced if we all adopted a vegan diet, or if the system turned into a vegan system. And with that in mind, you can think, how much reforestation can we do? How much, we could be growing more plants than ever, although there is enough plants for everyone on the earth right now. We could be doing so much more. We could have money to, using the argument that, but meat farmers will go out of jobs. We could use that for anything. We could use that for funding cocaine, if you think about it. Because at the end of the day, in Colombia, the economy is pretty much based on cocaine in so many areas. And without the purchase of cocaine in Western world, the West is a whole new world. No, in Western countries, if we don't buy cocaine in Western countries, then Colombian children will most likely, have no money, no food, but the thing, it's such a complicated, like, I don't know how to explain it. Do you guys know what I mean though? Because not buying meat obviously means that the meat farmers have less money, but also buying meat means that you're contributing to so much pain. So you gotta weigh out, what do you want to sacrifice here? So what do you think?
Sorry, but I must go. So bye.
Oh, bye.
Bye. Thank you for coming.
I just think overall people should be made aware that vegan food isn't just for someone who's a devout vegan, because it covers so many topics like gluten-free, lactose-free, low sugar, etc., etc. So I think people should also be made more aware of that. Bye.
Bye. Bye. That's very true as well.
I was just gonna say that there's actually like a petition in the UK. Oh. Hi.
Hello.
Hello.
Sorry. Yeah, I can't record anymore because my phone's full up.
Don't worry about it. We got you on OBS.
Nice. Okay.
Okay. There's a petition. In fact, I found this out thanks to Earthling. But there's a petition in the UK at the moment, and it's like pretty much on asking the government to change the way our money is spent subsidizing the dairy industry.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you guys might have heard of it, or you might have not, but like there is this campaign on Milk Your Moments campaign, it's called, and it was pretty much a campaign which encouraged people to consume more dairy products. Though actually like half of the let me just put it out there. The campaign was £1 million, though actually half of the campaign's money came from the UK government, so therefore out of our tax money. So the petition is pretty much to change the way that the government is subsidizing the money into the industry, and also so that it's easier for farmers to either transition to a plant-based agriculture or like diversify their products. And I think in fact there is a website. I can't remember the name of it now. I'm gonna try and find it. But yeah, and it's pretty much. I think Ed went on to talk about how about this Oxford University study, and the fact that like eating meat like no more than like 3 times a week could literally like prevent 31,000 deaths from heart disease, 9,000 deaths from cancer, 5,000 deaths from strokes each year, and saving £1.2 billion for NHS. And then pretty much that's only like if you reduce meat to eating it no more than like 3 times a week. So like, and that's already like loads of money. So yeah, I just wanted to like put that campaign out there and just like show that to do with like the agriculture and farmers like not getting jobs and things, there are actually like campaigns and information on how to help transition to this more plant-based agriculture style. So yeah, I spoke way too long there, but yeah.
No, that was really, really good. That's really interesting. I didn't know that was a thing, but that's very good that is a thing.
Mm.
So where do you guys stand with veganism right now? Just like as a complete curiosity, I'm not, I'm not gonna send follow-up email newsletters to whoever says they're not vegan. Don't worry.
Are you vegan? Also, what's your email address?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, I am aware of, what's going on in the meat industry, and I think it's terrible. But at the same time, I think I am kind of addicted to meat, and it's kind of like a drug, in that kind of way. And I think, I do try and not eat it, but at the same time, I'm like, oh, I'm a bit hungry. I'm gonna have some, but. So I am,
It's addictive.
omnivore, but I want to try and cut my meat consumption to zero, ultimately.
Honestly, I think that is like completely normal. I think that it is addictive. They put products in it for it to be addictive, and that's how the meat industry survives because people continue wanting more. So it's honestly like for example, I am actually vegan, and it did take me it's not an immediate thing. It takes time. It takes time to get used to eating differently, and also I didn't cut off meat or dairy or eggs or etc. Straight away. It did take time, so I think that as long as you put your mind to it, then and you have I think the most important thing is having your goal and what but
Of course, because if you don't want to do it and you're doing it just because it's trendy or something like that, then it's probably gonna fade away, and at one point you're gonna look at a bacon sandwich and go, oh fuck it, and just eat it, if you really
I mean, I have tried in the past, okay, I'm gonna be vegan, or I'm gonna try to have one day in the week without meat, and it's just it didn't work, but I'm gonna try and stick to it, because I think as well as with the ethical side and the environmental side, there's also the health benefits of being vegan. You just have a much more healthier lifestyle,
It also depends what you eat, but in general, as in if you eat Coca-Cola,
exactly.
if you eat Coca-Cola and Doritos, I doubt you're gonna be much healthier. But
that's technically vegan, but it's just not a good.
Honestly, I was vegetarian before vegan, but then I was vegetarian before I was vegetarian because I tried to be vegetarian. That didn't work out the first time, because the first day I said I was gonna be vegetarian. From that day on, from where I am in Italy, there's a thing called arrosticini, which is this very, I don't know if it's specific to our area, but it's quite traditional thing here, and it's lamb on skewer or something, and on that night, for some reason, they decided to cook it, and I was okay, but I like this, so, and it's kind of addictive, so it does take time, and that's pretty much my point. It's not it's normal to feel you're gonna you want to, and then maybe you get oh, but it's so good, and honestly that's normal. And I think the main thing is just realizing that the craving, and realizing why and how to manage it. But I don't know.
it's interesting. People do it very differently. I mean, I went vegan. I was just I was a weird kid. I went vegan 3 years ago, and this dude was like, "Why don't you go vegan?" And I was like, "Nah, I like my meat too much." And he was like, "Go on, give it a shot." And I was like, "Sure, might as well." It wasn't a very big decision. He convinced me to do 22 days of veganism, and little did I know 22 days would lead to 4 years. But
very nice.
I just went straight into veganism, and as you said, Izzy, it's many people need to adjust and stuff. And that is true. It is a really weird adjustment. You have to have a completely different perception of what food is. And how do you think that changed you? Do you think that now you get these meat cravings, or do you just not even consider it?
No. In fact, it's funny because Oscar, you were saying that your friend at the table was like disgusted by you eating meat, and I was like kind of laughing because I was like, that would probably be me, but like more hidden. Like I would try to pass it a little easier, but yeah, definitely didn't
Just
get
slowly
crazy.
rocking back and forth. Oh, it's that ham sandwich! Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Oh no.
That's funny.
Yeah.
I think
But
my
I was-
perspective on
What about you,
Sorry.
Kai?
Whoa.
Where do you stand?
my perspective on my current situation with veganism is that I completely hate the meat industry and also the dairy industry, and I really want it to be a situation where it's just not a thing anymore. The stickler point for me, as far as when I'm at uni living on my own, I think I'll almost certainly be vegan because it's like in my own hands as to whether I buy vegan stuff or not. And I think when given the choice, I don't think it's like a thing that I'm thinking like, oh, that'd be really nice, because my household's vegan, so I haven't had like meat in quite a long time. I think the difficulty with me at the moment, and it's a thing that I want to get past, because I recognise that it's not really what I want. It's with other people, and I feel like I really care about animals, and when it's my own choice, I won't eat meat and things. But if I was if I was at someone's house and they asked if I was vegetarian, I'd probably only say that I was vegetarian, because I'd be too spooked about saying that I was vegan, and because that's like a bit more of a bigger change, because you can just take something out generally and make it vegan. And I think because I think a lot of people would be fine with changing food so that it is vegan, but I feel like I probably don't care enough to ask someone to change their meal for me, and I think that's the thing that I need to work on. And I think if because Earthling Ed, if Earthling Ed went round to his mate's house and they were cooking meat, he just wouldn't have it, because he clearly cares lots and lots. And I don't think I'm at that stage yet where I care so much that I'd not have meat from someone else's house, because I'm not confident enough. But I don't know if more exposure to the industry would solve that, or just me being more confident in general. But that's where I am, really. Hopefully you heard all of that.
I tell you, as a promise, if you ever go to Manchester or London, I believe there's also one, if you go to one of the gas chambers, I promise you will never look at meat the same way. And it really does change you when you know a lot more about it. And I quite agree. In my first 22 days, I thought, if someone offers me some meat, I'm going to have it, right? But then on the first day, I went to someone's house and they were like, we got chicken wings. And I was like, I'm fine, actually. And then it just kind of kept going. Do you think you will get to the point where you care like Earthling Ed, or?
That's definitely what I want. Oh, can you still hear me, by the way? I've turned video on, but can you hear me? Okay, cool. That's definitely the point that I want to get. Oh, the point where I'm the Earthling Ed point is where I want to be. It might be a different issue of confidence or something that's restricting it, but either way, that's where I want to be as far as the veganism thing. And I agree with going to the gas chambers and things, because when I came back from the Earthling Ed talk ages ago, I couldn't imagine doing it. But I guess with when it's with other people, the social insecurity of asking someone to cook something else takes over, and I kind of justify it and make myself and lie to myself and forget that that's actually what goes on, as in I hate killing animals, but I don't know, maybe it's probably just fine or something. So I guess I just need to, I think probably experiencing it in real life would stop that.
No, honestly, I do understand that. I think you did come to say that it might also be knowledge, but also like maybe confidence as well. I think for me, I was like unsure about like, I just kind of like, I don't know, I was just like, I was younger, so I wasn't really aware of people's opinions. I'd try and kind of hide my food, or like they'd know, but they'd all kind of be disgusted, and I was just like, okay, well, I'll just pretend to not know you're disgusted by this. But also, I don't think like I live in like a quite conservative area of Italy, and like, for example, my neighbors are literally farmers, like dairy farm, no, like animal product farmers in general, I think.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and but like we go over to their house, and they're literally like, I swear the old lady just wants company, because she's the sweetest, and she'll literally buy us vegan snacks and then invite us over. Also, like, I actually live like in England. On the other hand, I also live with farmers. Like, my whole family on my dad's side are are farmers. Like, have been for a very long time. I mean, so, but they, like, my grandmother's so good though. She's like really got not much knowledge on cooking vegan food, but she honestly tries so much, and she's like gotten so much better since I've moved. And like, I think that like, honestly, people don't really care that much. Like, okay. Then again, my family constantly do have these kind of like little snidey comments where they'll be like, "Oh my God, you're vegan," but like, but they're like not that pressed about it. So like, at the end of the day, like, people are kind of like weirded out by the decision, but like also they're pretty chill. So yeah.
There's definitely insecurities around being veganism.
Yeah.
Like being veganism, sorry, being vegan.
Yeah.
I am veganism. Have you ever said to people, Izzy, that you're? Because I used to do this. I used to say I'm a vegetarian that's allergic to milk and eggs, because I was so scared of telling them I'm vegan.
Very smart.
I've actually, I don't know, because like, okay, as I said, it was like a process for me. So like, I actually started off vegetarian, then eliminated milk. I was actually started off vegetarian but ate fish, then eliminated milk, then eliminated eggs, and then eliminated fish as last. But I was very for the health. Like, I mean, I kind of still am, but I was much more, when I was younger, like a health freak. Like, I literally went off sugar, would not touch sugar for like, it was probably for about 1 or 2 years. I just did not eat. I was like anyone would come to my house, and I was like, this is why you shouldn't like, consume sugar. Like, give them a whole presentation. Like, I was like very, yeah. So it kind of came as a process. So I didn't really have to do that, but I have thought actually, about people like that could totally, like, oh no, actually, walking into shops or like cafes or some places that are more like reserved, I guess, especially in Italy, I do kind of say, yeah, I'm allergic to that. So I actually, now thinking about it, I do that sometimes, right? Like, especially if it's just something that's got milk in, I just say I'm allergic. And then it's even better, because then they're like, don't, like, for example, when I get ice cream, I'm like, I'm allergic to milk. Do you have any ice cream with no milk? Because then they're like, sure, because they definitely cannot serve me ice cream with milk. Like, I'm that vegan who's like kind of scared of everybody contaminating me.
That's a very clever way of doing it, actually. Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember I was like, do you guys have any vegetarian, non-egg, no egg, no milk cakes. They were like, so you mean vegan? And I was like, yeah, around, like vegan, like veganism, you know. And they were like, oh yeah, we got this chocolate cake, and she served me the cake, and then she said, so are you vegan or not? And I was like, no, I'm vegetarian, but I'm allergic to milk and eggs. And she was like, oh, thank God you're not vegan. Whenever they come in here, I feel like telling them to sod off.
Oh my god.
I was like, okay.
Oh,
Wow.
nice.
That is intense.
I mean, that really
That's
summarizes
pretty
the whole
mad.
thing. Because, like, it's like accepted in the world that, like, allergies are a thing. And I think if like everyone was vegan, then it'd be super easy to be vegan, and it'd be like probably difficult not to. But that story just encapsulates it all, because like it doesn't matter what you're doing, just the way the reason that you give. If it's a more accepted one, yeah, that's really silly.
Like, I remember I went to this, it was the Friday for Future protest, obviously, like an environmental march. But in Italy, they're clearly not very aware that the animal products, like the meat and dairy industry, has such a big play in the environment. And I came up with my poster, like, Vegans for Future, hashtag Fridays for Future underneath. and I turned up. Yeah. And I turned up, and obviously nobody said anything. And until, like, you know, we were talking and everything, and like I put my poster down as I was talking with people. And anyway, these people next to us, clearly not seeing my poster that I'd been holding up, went, "Oh my god, did you guys see the vegans are here?" I was like, oh my god. Well, that was great.
Why are there vegans at the environmental protest?
Vegans.
Jeez.
Imagine being a vegan. Lol. Could never be me.
I know.
I actually used to say that, thinking about it.
Oh my god. I was like, oh my god. And I was like, I don't know, I was still like pretty, I wasn't like insecure, but like I was probably like definitely more insecure about everything rather than now. And I was just like, yeah, well. And throughout my mind, I was like, you know, there are the people speaking on like the megaphones. I wish I could just do it and like state each vegan fact. And I was like, but I could not. I'm like too insecure. But like, looking back at it, I would have liked to do that. I don't know if, because like I was so like, in my head it was like, you could do this, and then got to the end and I was like, I didn't do that. Oops. But yeah.
So what's the consensus of the podcast so far? I think we're all pretty much saying that the animal agriculture is, you know, wrong in one word, really. Would we say we all agree with that?
Yeah, I think so. But I think actually we didn't have as many people on as we have had in the past, and I think there probably would be some other people that would come on that might have different opinions. So it'd be interesting to see what other people.
Yeah.
That would have been really nice, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually, because like at the start, I didn't know who would be like for what, and you know, I'm like always kind of nervy about defending what like, because I feel like defending is even a bad word, because it shouldn't be defending. It should just be
100%.
like talking, I guess.
Yeah,
And, like,
yeah.
So I messaged Georgia, and I was like, hey, we're talking about veganism today, so I was wondering if you could like hop on.
Oh wow.
Mm.
Oh, that's funny.
Georgia being a vegan or not vegan?
Vegan.
Okay. We have a bit of backup.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's the thing, because at the start, I mean, it's a bit funky, because at the start I said you probably should go against telling people what actual thing you are, because they might like you feel like it's a personal attack kind of thing. And it's turned out that we're all kind of of the same opinion, but then, and like we've had this really productive conversation, and I think it's kind of like it's almost an echo chamber, because like some people have different views, and we've all been like really like perceptive, and we've all like done devil's advocate and stuff. It would have been really cool if we had someone who wasn't vegan in the podcast, but I feel like we would have come to the same conclusion.
Yeah, but I mean, listen,
Yeah.
if you have any opinions on this topic, feel free to let us know. And if you want to, you can come on the podcast and we can talk to you and see what you think.
Roast some meat eaters. Ben Shapiro roasts
I'd actually
some meat.
love some really good quality debates with perhaps someone in the industry. That'd be really interesting.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, that would be good. Yeah.
Maybe that's something we can look at. We can figure out if that's a possibility. That'd be really cool, actually. That's a very good idea.
Yeah.
I'll write that down as an idea.
So at the end of the day, I think we all agree, and we also all agree that we like that it's normal to like not be vegan, and that the way of like coming onto the situation is like not like attacking a person, just having like a normal conversation, like
Yeah.
making people, because like honestly, I've actually like had conversations where I felt like pretty attacked, and like especially when I think strongly about something, I like literally in one time I literally broke down and just like started like crying. I was like, and it's so embarrassing because like I could have literally just been talking, but like I was in a room full of meat eaters, so I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just break down and cry. Great idea as well. No, but it's fine. I think it's just. I think at the end of the day, it's just conversing and giving your opinions and just facts in general, like in a not attacking way.
Yeah. Just be friends, guys. Just love. That's it.
Yes. Yeah.
Very, very deep stuff, everyone.
Oh, that was really, really good. That was really interesting. Lots of really cool stuff to talk about. I wonder if what listeners will be thinking about this, whether that's helped anyone change their mind or something. Just educate yourself, everyone. Has anyone else got anything else they'd like to say? I think this is a very nice point to finito this debate.
I don't know. I thought it was quite a good episode. I wouldn't really call it a debate because not really many people on opposing parts.
Yeah.
Big long rant from 4 people who like animals.
A very big wrangle today.
Yes.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Where can we find you, Luca?
You can find me.
Don't
on
tell them your
Instagram.
address.
You can find me at my
address is.
Find me on Instagram at Luca, LucaWolfe, MURRAY. So it's like Luca Wolf, but after Wolf there's an E, which makes no sense whatsoever. And then there's Murray, like Andy Murray.
Oh, nice.
Weird name.
I don't know why, but that like whenever I don't even know if that was the name of the guy on the thing, but like it always reminds me of the Joker. I don't know if you guys what was that, but like
Andy
when he was
Murray?
like no, but like Mariah. Well, I swear it's like Mariah when he the Joker was on that like show.
Murray.
Yeah, but he said it in a really weird way. Wait, now I'm totally.
You've been really coherent this entire podcast, then 1 hour 90 minutes, and you just it's completely. I've no idea what you're talking about.
I don't even know what I'm saying either. Well, I'm at dreamy.avocado with 3 O's at the end, so yeah. I remember
Nice.
I actually put that for my Quizlet account name, and then my teacher, my biology teacher, went, haha, I've seen some funny usernames, like, who's Dreamy Avocado? I was like, oh, great, in front of the whole class, and I was like,
No.
at this point I didn't even speak to anyone. I was just like, okay, great.
Of
Yeah.
course the vegans got Dreamy Avocado.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, you can find me on social media as well. My Instagram is at Osgaria. That's OSGARIA. The story behind that was, if I was to create a country, that's what I would call it. And you can also find me on YouTube. It's just Oscar Redgrave. And yeah.
Cool beans. All those links will be in the description, dear listeners. Thank you all of you for coming. It's been really, really fun and really, really interesting. Literally all of you have been really, really woke. And also very nice to meet you too, Luca. Hope to see you soon on another podcast. But yeah, as far as the listeners go, we'll end it here. So bye-bye, listeners. See you next time.
All for listening. Bye-bye. Bye.